Hi, this is John of Trish and John's Gardening Channel. Today is October 8th, 2015. It's been about 6 weeks since we last came up in the garden and did a video. And boy, what a difference that last 6 weeks of the summer and as we get into fall makes in the garden. It's like a light switch goes off and everything starts dying back. At least the warmer weather crops, as you can see here on the right, are my tomatoes. They're pretty much done for the season. I'm going to be cutting these back today. I will be saving all of the green tomatoes that you see here. Got quite a few green tomatoes as I look around, so we should get quite a haul of those and take them in the house and either fry them up or try and ripen them up in the house. Now, one thing I want to mention, I do like to use these ties to do the tomato plants throughout the year. I'm pretty liberal. As you can see, I use them quite a bit. But unfortunately, in the fall here, it's a little painstaking. I've got to cut these back, and I save all of that because I don't want to just cut that back and put it in the compost pile. I do want to discard that in the garbage. It's not biodegradable. So, anyways, a little bit painstaking, but it's worth it. So, this is a grafted Amana orange. It's pretty well done for the season, but it did very, very well. You can see here a bunch of green tomatoes there, a couple ripe ones. So, be cutting that down as well. Let me swing around here. And one plant I did want to show you here that's still thriving is our sun gold. You can see here it's still producing flowers, fruit, and they are ripening. You can see here's a couple left. They have been picking these for the last 8 weeks or so. So I would suggest or recommend a sun gold in your garden next year if you haven't tried this already. It's really a cool plant, and you get a lot of tomatoes throughout the summer and into the fall. You can see here, just want to show you, hopefully you could see that. They do have a tendency to split. You probably 10% or so will start splitting, especially in the fall. So that's one thing that's a little bit of a drawback with that plant. It really can't be helped. Every year, I've been doing sun golds for the last 5 years, and every year that does happen. It's inconsistent watering in the fall and the cool nights. I think just, they have a tendency to crack. But you throw 10% away. I mean, they're edible. You can eat the ones that crack, but it's just a little bit of a nuisance. But still a great plant to try if you haven't tried that. So the one in the forefront is actually a Maxifort rootstock. I planted this one by seed, and we used it to graft our heirlooms on top of this plant. But this one got away from me. I did not know that this was actually in my group of tomatoes that I was planting. It got mixed in by mistake, but kind of glad that I grew it just to see how this thing grows, and it is a monster. This thing would have been at least 8 foot tall. I've been topping this plant, as you can see here. I've been topping this plant, hopefully you could see that, throughout the summer because it's just unwieldy. But it's kind of an experiment. I'm glad I did it, but certainly next year I won't be growing that. It really doesn't produce any fruit. You can see here, still growing, still producing fruit, although little fruit, and flowers. Even though we've had those cool nights, you can see all of my other tomato plants have been knocked down and pretty much done, but the Maxifort is just thriving. So I could see why they use it for a rootstock and why it's bred to do that. So here you can see this is our cilantro. We let this one, it started, it bolted late summer, and we did not tear it down at that time. We let it flower. And what we've got now, hopefully you could see that, this is actually coriander seeds. You can see some of the ones that are on the upper part of the plant like that aren't quite ready, but others like this, once they get brown like that, those are ready. I'm going to be picking those today. So it's kind of a dual purpose. We get the cilantro throughout the summer, and now in the fall we're going to be able to harvest the coriander seeds and probably be grinding them up, and Trish, I'm sure, will be using those in her recipes throughout the winter. So our kale, I mean, this kale's been unbelievable. I've been talking about this kale pretty much all summer. I planted this in the spring. It's one of the first things that I planted, and I did not expect this kale to last. I've been picking it. I thought for sure it would bolt. In the heat of the summer, it didn't, and I'm very impressed with this. So I'll be picking more of this today. Next up is our Chinese 5-color peppers. I've got 3 plants. These are a wonderful plant. I hadn't tried these before this year, and I'm very happy that I tried them. Very nice hot pepper, easy to grow. I mean, this is a beautiful little plant with all the color in the garden. and I'm definitely going to be planting this again next year. I've picked a whole bunch of these throughout the season, and they just took off late summer. As you can see here, a bunch of peppers all over the place. I'm going to be picking these today, and they're really good any color. You don't have to wait until they turn red. The purple is the first color that they start out, so those are a little bit younger than, say, that red one in the center. But I'm going to be picking them all today. We're going to be drying a lot of these and crushing them for cooking, and I give a lot of them away fresh, and they're a nice hot pepper, good for stews and stuff like that. So very happy with those. Let me just quickly come around here. This is the 4 o'clocks. I just want to show you here. These just naturally produce these little seeds. They look like little grenades, if you will. Okay, so these naturally seed themselves. I'm going to let this go in this corner and just let these seeds fall naturally. They just, they just fall out of there very easily once they're ready to go. And so this corner, next season, I'm going to allocate for more 4 o'clocks. I like having those in the garden. They attract a lot of pollinating insects and bees. So let me come around here. This is our mini bell peppers. I really wasn't happy with this. If you watch some of my old, it's the first time I'm trying these in the garden this year, and I wasn't happy throughout the season. They weren't growing very well and they weren't producing, but now that we're into the fall and late summer, these things are producing pretty well. I picked a whole bowl full of these, a large bowl full the other day, and we've been using these in salads, and I just bring these to work and eat them almost like, like little apples. You do have to seed them, though. There's a ton of seeds in these little guys, but very happy with these at the end. At the end here, I'm glad I tried these this year. Not sure, though, whether or not I would try them next year. It's debatable. I may replace them with a different type of peppers. My Anaheims, you can see here. Sorry about the camera shots. It's difficult to kind of get around, but you can see here I got a bunch more Anaheims growing. I'm going to be picking most of these today. They do turn red if you let them go here. I don't. I usually pick them when they're green, because they get pretty good size here. You can see, that one's small, but you can see red here. So Anaheims all over here. This is another bell pepper. It fell over. We did have some tough weather the last few days, high winds and a lot of rain, so the garden is a little bit more beat down than it normally would be. So this is lavender. This is probably tripled in size or quadrupled in size. It smells wonderful in the garden. Happy about that. Here we have the rosemary, and we've got parsley. The parsley has bolted, but I'm going to be cutting that down and saving a bunch of that. We do have parsley at the house, so I just put it up here as kind of a backup. We've got our thyme. The one here in the forefront is lemon thyme, and the one in the back there is a normal, just everyday run-of-the-mill thyme. The oregano, you can see here, I've cut this back twice this year. It's really taken over. I'm going to be cutting that back in the spring. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let that die back naturally. But in the spring, I'm going to cut this back and then let it kind of regrow. It's taken over a little bit more of the garden than I really would like. Okay, next up we've got our eggplant. These have done quite well. This plant's at least 4 foot tall. We've got a lot of eggplant off of these throughout the season. Still a couple left. I'm going to be probably tearing these out today. I don't see the chance of these really producing much more, although there are a few flowers left, but just too late in the season for these to actually produce any more than they have. So you can see a couple in the back there. We'll be taking these. They're small, but they'll be good that way. Be a little bit more tender. We do have one on the forefront. This plant, you can see the plant, the leaves are already giving up, so there's no reason to wait any longer with this plant. We'll just be picking what we can. And if you remember way back in the day, the 2 eggplants in the front were not growing at all, but they finally came back and actually produced some fruit. So sometimes you just got to hang in there and let them do their thing. So this is Swiss chard here. Not much left. I've been picking this. I haven't been doing much weeding, as you can see there, but we're going to go ahead and pick this today, the rest of it, and use that in a salad. But one thing, probably the last thing I want to show you before we get to work here is our quote-unquote fall crop. We did plant these by seed in late August, one of the last things that we did here. We've got the arugula doing very well. We've got some kale here. This is a mixed kale. The one in the back is actually a dinosaur kale. We're going to leave that. Trish prefers that, but it's not doing as well as this mixed variety. This mixed variety is the same variety that you saw earlier in the video. I actually seeded this the second time, same seeds that I used in the spring. So again, we're going to be cutting this down a little bit today. In the back there, we've got beets. Those are not doing very well. I'm probably going to thin those today and see if I could get those to produce a couple fruit there. The forefront here, this looks fantastic. Very happy about that. Obviously, that is a mixed variety of lettuce. We've got some peas here. I don't see any peas growing. I'm not sure we'll actually get anything off of these, but you know, kind of an experiment. Plant them late in the fall or late summer as we did, and you know, they're growing. They look pretty good. I think they like the cool weather, so maybe we'll get lucky and they'll produce something. That is actually a spinach. Not sure if we'll get anything here, but a couple little healthy plants. We might get lucky and get something off of them. So again, these are our beets. I don't see anything growing, but I'm gonna thin these today, and I'll save the you know, whatever I pick I'll save, because the leaves are edible. So again, that's our kale, and you can see here, just scan down here, we got a bunch of marigolds again. So I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning up. It's probably going to take me a few hours, and I'm going to cut the shot, and hopefully the next shot you'll see a bit of progress here as far as getting the garden put to bed for winter and getting ready for next season. Okay, so fast forward just about 4.5 hours later. I've done a lot of work here today in the garden. I'm happy with the progress. We've taken out all of the tomatoes. I've tilled. I've taken out all of the eggplants and all of my peppers, weeded, etc. And one thing I wanted to tell you is, yes, I do use a tiller. There's proof. I till in the fall as I do today. I'm going to do, obviously, tilling a couple more times. I've got some, you know, that grouping in the back that I'll take out either this weekend or next weekend or something like that. But I'll till a couple more times in the fall, and then I'll let the garden go to rest, and I'll till a couple more times in the spring. Now, I know it's not really PC lately to till a garden. I'm not sure exactly why. I see no good reason why you can't use a tiller. I think it's beneficial, actually, because it's easy to do, gets the job done, and if I kill a few worms in the process, they actually break down and are food for other insects and other worms, for that matter. And you know, circle of life, I think that's actually beneficial. So use a tiller as far as I'm concerned. Wanted to show you the roots here. I pulled these up. This is the grafted Amana orange in the center here. This is the graft union. You can see this is you know, the stem has gotten quite big, at least as wide as my finger, and the root system is quite nice here. This is the Maxifort rootstock roots here. You can see very, very strong roots, very, very thick. That's one of the tap roots. That's at least 3/16 in diameter, and that's one of the main tap roots that goes down, or it looked like it went down at least 2 feet, probably 2.5, 3 feet, some of these tap roots. And I wanted to show you, as opposed to this plant here, this is another tomato plant, not sure which one, but what I wanted to show you is the fact that we were able to plant all of our tomatoes very deep. If you watch some of my earlier videos from the spring, you'll see that we plant them very deep. And this is exactly why. You can see here we've got good root growth along the stem. And if I just planted the plant, let's say this deep, I wouldn't get the benefit of all these roots that we've got here. You can see these are main tap roots. These aren't just, you know, small little roots. These are main roots that came off of that stem. And the only reason why they did that is because we planted that tomato plant very deep. Actually, I planted at least 1 foot deep, and you lose a little bit on the bottom. You know, as it grows, it kind of dies back. But again, we've got at least 2 foot tap roots on that guy. Again, as opposed to the grafted plant. Now, I can only plant it about that deep here. It did grow a little bit, but you can't plant, let me show you, sorry about that. You can't plant your grafted tomato plants below, or above, I should say, the graft union. The dirt has to be below that union. So when I planted this, unfortunately, that's one of the drawbacks, I think, with using a grafted plant, is you really can't plant it as deep as I would have liked. I did let the grafted plants get bigger than normal, much bigger actually, and grafted late in the life of the plant. which had its drawbacks. But the reason why I did that is because I wanted to plant even the rootstock deep, and I did get some benefit here. You could see some offshoots, but again, I wasn't able to plant that as deep. Still grew tremendously well, and I think that's attributed to the rootstock. But again, plant your tomatoes deep. Here's another example. You can see here all of these offshoots, very good root growth, and the deeper you plant your tomatoes, the better. So let me spin around here. I just wanted to end today's video by showing you some of the produce that we picked. This is a 16-quart container. It's about half full. I've got all my Anaheims here on the bottom. I picked them first, and then I picked